Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng smiled at the woman in blue. Senior Feng Do thinks too highly of me. Reincarnation Tower is prestigious in the Land of Origin, and I believe its members must far surpass me in strength. Of the current 8 members, 1 is invincible in the first realm of Godly King, and 7 are in the second realm of Godly King, the woman in blue admitted. The gap between them and me is huge, Luo Feng remarked. Would you like to join then? The woman in blue asked Luo Feng. You should have confidence that you will soon become invincible in the first realm of Godly King. Luo Feng did not reply immediately but thought for a moment and asked, Senior Feng Do, could you tell me about the rules of Reincarnation Tower? The woman in blue replied, I merely established the organization of the Reincarnation Tower. All members inside are absolutely equal, and everyone knows each other's identities. If there is an action to be taken, members may invite others to join. Whether others participate is entirely voluntary. Whether members have a friendly or hostile relationship, nobody can intervene. But Reincarnation Tower has 2 core rules. First, no one may disclose the identity of other members. Second, nobody who participates in an action initiated by a member may betray them, and those who refuse to participate may not disclose it. These are the rules. Once you join, you must abide by them. The woman in blue looked at Luo Feng. To violate them is to breach the great causality, becoming the common enemy of all other members. Luo Feng understood. Do not leak identities, do not betray. Pretty simple. If it's just these 2 rules, I'm willing to join, Luo Feng said. After all, through the long years, Reincarnation Tower had maintained a good reputation in the Land of Origin, unlike the powers established by alien races such as 2 Realms Palace, Wanfa Tower, or Timespace Lonely Boat. Moreover, Empress Feng Du's reputation was also very good, and both ancient countries regarded her favorably. The reputation of Reincarnation Tower and Empress Feng Du was indeed the reason Luo Feng was willing to join. Indeed, following the guidance from his master mountain-sitting guest, after becoming a godly king, one would naturally join some factions. Welcome to join us, the woman in blue said with a radiant smile, flipping her hand to bring out a token. With this token, a mere thought can take you into Reincarnation Tower. I will convene the other members to warmly welcome the new member. Luo Feng received the token. With this token, you can also contact the other 8 members, the woman in blue said. Luo Feng sensed that besides descending into Reincarnation Tower, the token could only contact the 8 members. A towering figure stood between heaven and earth, his body nearly occupying 1/3 of the entire land. Black winds howled, sharpening his skin, imbuing his blue-black skin with a fearsome aura. In this world, only 2 old servants were present besides him. Achem! The towering figure suddenly opened his eyes, his dark yellow eyes showing a bit of surprise. Feng Du invited a new member. Reincarnation Tower finally has a new member again. Come, drink, drink. In a large hall, a young man indulged in drinking, surrounded by many friends. Younger brother, you are highly talented but you should still devote some effort to cultivation, said a muscular man with scale armor, a tail, and horns stepping forward to advise him. Constant indulgence like this will make it hard to escape when calamity strikes. Cultivation. The drunken young man glanced at his friend. Big brother, what is cultivation for anyway? Once you become powerful and reach the primal chaos realm, you can truly dominate. You can easily control the fate of an entire primal chaos prefecture, the muscular man explained. I don't care about dominating anyone's fate. Being able to control my own fate is pretty good. Ha ha ha, my eyes, ears, and senses, that's all I need, the drunken young man laughed. Don't be too greedy, enjoying fine wine is already wonderful enough. Sigh, the muscular man did not continue to persuade. The drunken young man suddenly became aware. Oh, Feng Du invited a new member? I wonder who the new member is. The drunken young man's eyes held a trace of depth. He chose reincarnation to sever the tangle of causality and to gain some freedom. However, after his reincarnation, he was still in contact with Empress Feng Du and had rejoined Reincarnation Tower. Reincarnation Tower was the only faction he still trusted, the members of Reincarnation Tower had never betrayed him. Let's check out the new member. The drunken young man used the token, and with a thought, he had already headed to Reincarnation Tower. Beyond the land of origin was the boundless universe ocean. At the edge of the continent, a vast expanse of universe ocean was engulfed in endless poisonous fog, which spread far and continued to accumulate over time. At the center of the poisonous fog was a gigantic creature with numerous claws possessing a golden eye. Reincarnation Tower finally has a new member. The new member chosen by Feng Du must be extraordinary. The massive creature too entered Reincarnation Tower with a thought. Soon, the members joined one after another. Luo Feng, using a token, descended upon the Reincarnation Tower for the first time. It was a pavilion condensed from illusions. Stepping into this pavilion, Luo Feng instantly saw 8 figures already seated inside, which made him, the new member, the last to arrive. "Luo, he has arrived," said the Queen of Wind Capital, smiling at Luo Feng. The other 7 also looked at Luo Feng curiously, all appearing very friendly. Luo Feng saw these 7, and since they weren't concealing themselves in any way, he recognized them immediately, which startled him. What a Reincarnation Tower, Luo Feng thought. No wonder it previously only had 8 members, yet its fame could rival that of the Two Realms Palace. Here in the Reincarnation Tower, all members treat each other as equals and can address each other by name, declared the Queen of Wind Capital. "Luo He, from now on, you are our 9th member." Luo He, a burly figure, raised his cup and smiled amiably. He was Emperor Gui Shu. "Luo He, the number 1 of Primal Chaos Realm, I have long heard of your name. To invite you here, you must be even more remarkable than the outsiders say," said a huge, plump man with a laugh. His smile held a subtle magic that naturally made other creatures feel warmly toward him. He was the direct disciple of the Lord of 10,000 Realms, the Great Freedom Sovereign. "Luo He, I am Wu Xin," a young man said with a smile to Luo Feng. Luo Feng smiled and nodded. "Brother Wu Xin." Wu Xin. He had once been a godly king and a guest elder of the Flame Wind ancient country, never fully joining it, just an ordinary guest elder. As his strength grew, and after reaching the 2nd realm of godly king, he too began to compete for some resources. Because the resources obtained were so precious, he suffered multiple assassination attempts by the Flame Wind ancient country. After several attempts on his life, Wu Xin eventually died in battle. "There was no choice. If I didn't die, the Flame Wind ancient country wouldn't stop. So I had to reincarnate so they couldn't trace my causality," the young man explained. "You are currently only in the Primal Chaos Realm, lacking resources they'd covet. Once you're strong enough, you'll see how ugly the faces of those emperors of Flame Wind are." Luo Feng smiled faintly. "Thank you for the reminder, Brother Wu Xin." Of the 8 present members, 2 had deep grudges with the Flame Wind ancient country, namely Emperor Gui Shu and Wu Xin God King. Both had once been guest elders. Emperor Gui Shu had even been a direct disciple of Emperor Xian. Their grievances were real, and Luo Feng understood Wu Xin's point. He meant it sincerely. Yet, although there were many rumors, Luo Feng knew that some of the emperors and godly kings in the Flame Wind ancient country were indeed tyrannical. But at least for now, the Flame Wind ancient country and he bore no grudges. On the contrary, his relationship with Emperor Chu Yu, his bond with his mentor Emperor Chu, and his connection with Emperor Ming. Luo Feng cherished all of these. Favors are favors, grudges are grudges. Emperor Chu and Emperor Ming had shown him kindness, so Luo Feng couldn't just turn on the Flame Wind ancient country because of a few words from other cultivators. Luo He, a man in white robes, nodded at Luo Feng with a smile. "King Shan Du," Luo Feng also nodded. King Shan Du, the direct disciple of the primogenitor Yang Feng, in the realm of 2nd realm godly king. Although he was a godly king and a guest in the Flame Wind ancient country, his status was still quite high. The emperors of the Flame Wind treated King Shan Du with quite a bit of respect. The material for his first triune form came from a pet of King Shan Du. Luo Feng and the several members present all exchanged simple greetings. Of the 8 members, the Queen of Wind Capital hailed from the East Extreme Domain, and Great Freedom Sovereign came from the Wanjie Kingdom. Emperor Gui Shu, Wu Xin God King, and King Shan Du all had ties to the Flame Wind ancient country. Cloud Sky God King, an invincible first realm godly king, had been a guest elder in the Thunder Ancient Country. He once lost control while cultivating the primordial bloodline and killed a godly king of the Thunder Ancient Country, forcing him to flee. Blackfire Demon Lord, a guest elder and second realm godly king from the Thunder Ancient Country, turned against the country completely in his quest to seize resources to become a monarch. Interestingly, the Thunder Ancient Country had valued him highly, but due to his incessant failures to acquire the resources to become a monarch, he had turned against them. His reputation in the land of origin was also quite favorable. Earth God King, Luo Feng looked at the muscular man seated there, who, with a wide smile, raised his cup to Luo Feng. Luo Feng reciprocated with a raised glass, yet he understood in his heart. In the entire Reincarnation Tower, in terms of strength, it was the Queen of Wind Capital and this Earth God King who were the strongest. Earth God King, also a godly king risen from the lower ranks, once a guest elder of the Thunder Ancient Country. His exceptional talent was brilliant and dazzling. Because of his talent, he even obtained numerous resources left by Yuan, which provoked the Thunder Ancient Country. But due to his formidable strength, and despite several monarchs attacking him simultaneously, he boldly escaped. From then on, Earth God King and the Thunder Ancient Country were estranged. Though a second realm godly king, Earth God King could still confront monarchs of the Thunder Ancient Country, his power almost matching theirs. A single Reincarnation Tower, equivalent to the tier of emperors, actually houses two. Luo Feng marveled inwardly, no wonder it has such a grand reputation. This gathering to welcome the new member was also a chance for everyone to get acquainted. Except for the somewhat reticent Earth God King, the other members chatted with Luo Feng for a while, all of them becoming quite familiar. Now, in the Reincarnation Tower, my strength is the weakest. Even if they plan any actions, it wouldn't be suitable to involve me, Luo Feng understood. After becoming a godly king, his strength would have to surge before he could participate in some actions. Luo He, my younger brother, the corpulent Great Freedom Sovereign said jovially, when you participate in some of Reincarnation Tower's operations in the future, you must remember to conceal your identity. Concealing one's aura and obscuring causality wasn't difficult for the other members of the Reincarnation Tower. Luo Feng, not yet a godly king, was somewhat inferior in obscuring causality. I believe, with the achievements of your physical body, hiding and disguising yourself won't be difficult, the Great Freedom Sovereign remarked. However, when you act and engage with the enemy using techniques, you must avoid your own famous moves. Some techniques might only be executable by you in the entire land of origin. Once used, they could easily give away your real identity. Once your identity is guessed, you won't know peace, the Great Freedom Sovereign side. After all, we in the Reincarnation Tower have acted time and again, contesting with many great forces and seizing quite a few resources. In our Reincarnation Tower, only I and Gui Shu have ever revealed our identities, Wuxin God King added from the side. After my identity was exposed, the kings of Flame Wind Ancient Country knew I had previously seized many precious treasures, so they tried to assassinate me several times, and in the end, I had no choice but reincarnation. I don't mind, Emperor Gui Shu said indifferently from the side. I have nothing to hold on to, so what if I am exposed? His wife, children, and even all of his clan were no longer here. Emperor Gui Shu didn't care about being exposed. I have attachments, Wuxin God King sighed, it's only through reincarnation that I can protect them better. Luo Feng listened, understanding that he was still relatively weak, not yet involved in the struggles of the most powerful beings on the land of origin, yet he could also draw on their experience. The gathering to welcome the new member finally ended. Xiangjie City. Within a pavilion, Luo Feng sat alone. That strand of consciousness had already returned. The atmosphere within Reincarnation Tower is quite good. Luo Feng was quite satisfied. Even though I'm the weakest, everyone was friendly and accessible. However, even the Reincarnation Tower's Soul Cloud Sky God King at the first realm of Godly King is extremely formidable. Luo Feng also understood how fearsome the estimated power of Cloud Sky God King was. In the land of origin, there are quite a few invincible beings at the first realm of Godly King. Why was Cloud Sky God King invited to join? I heard that Cloud Sky God King, by herself and through cultivation, reached the extreme limit of the first realm of Godly King. Unable to progress further, she then switched to cultivating the primordial bloodline. I heard she was too compatible with that primordial bloodline, uncovering too much of its potential, and though it caused her power to surge dramatically, digging too intensely into its potential also resulted in the vast will hidden deeper within the primordial bloodline clashing against her consciousness, leading to her loss of control. In her uncontrolled state, she instantly caused the death of a royal family god king from Thunder Ancient Country, and all of his avatars perished. The affairs of Cloud Sky God King were quite renowned. If it was only the killing of one real body of a royal family god king, he could still cultivate back, and so with some compensation, the matter could be settled. But her digging into the primordial bloodline was too deep, its intrinsic virulence targeted the soul. There was no way to revive through a resurrection vessel. Even at the second realm of Godly King, facing her virulence, one would suffer great loss of strength. According to my information, in terms of using poison, she could be ranked among the top 3 in the entire land of origin, Luofeng could guess. During many members' operations, Cloud Sky God King's virulence could affect several second-realm godly kings at the same time, naturally providing substantial aid to their actions. Not to mention the other 7 members. The treasure land infinite space. Luofeng sat cross-legged on a piece of a blue-black stone, immersed in his cultivation. Although he had just joined one of the most prominent forces in the land of origin, Luofeng also understood that whether it was the Two Realms Palace or the Reincarnation Tower, inviting him while he was merely at the primal chaos realm level was akin to an early invitation. Because once he became a godly king, demonstrating sufficient strength, there would be many more forces inviting him. Although it was an early invitation, he truly wasn't involved in collective action at the moment. Two Realms Palace was willing to offer a great opportunity. Reincarnation Tower, on the other hand, didn't offer any chances. Luofeng smiled to himself. Sometimes a pie falling from the sky isn't necessarily a good thing. All actions of the Two Realms Palace were watched by alien races. Just this point alone was enough for Luofeng to decline joining. Focus on cultivation. They are too far from me. From the experiences and lessons of senior practitioners, the godly kings of the 2 ancient countries were indeed ruthless, but their main targets were those at the second realm of Godly King. They looked down on those at the first realm as too weak. The valuable resources contested by those at the second realm of Godly King would arouse their covetousness, leading to their large-scale actions. If one reached the ultimate realm of God King, the 2 ancient countries became more cautious in how they dealt with them, not acting rashly. The Lord of 10,000 Realms, the sector beast of Qianmu Kingdom, according to Luofeng's gathered intelligence, were both at the ultimate realm level of Godly King, and that ancestor from the East Extreme Domain. There was no accurate intelligence, but at the very least, he was also at the ultimate realm of Godly King. These 3 top-tier forces each occupied a large territory and were all doing well. This world, after all, respects strength. Luofeng stopped thinking further and focused on his cultivation. Having consumed the effects of primordial crystal spirit fruit and clearing spirit liquid for half an era, Luofeng still cherished the lingering effects of this phase. Great Tao of Life and Death. Luofeng began to relax and contemplate the Great Tao of Life and Death again. Most of Luofeng's efforts were on the Great Tao of Life Origin and Great Tao of Destruction Origin, with only a minority on the Great Tao of Life and Death. Luofeng knew very well that with the first 2 Taos as references, with several special grade inheritances as guidance, and also as the foundation of his Great Tao of Life and Death, the more solid the foundation, the fusion of the Great Tao of Life and Death would indeed take one farther. He understood the reasoning, but the speed of comprehension for the separate paths of life and destruction was significantly slower than that of the Great Tao of Life and Death. No wonder many godly kings focus solely on one path. What suited for oneself, after all, is the best. Luofeng could clearly feel the difference because he truly believed it from the heart. Even following the direction he most enjoyed in his heart, the efficiency of comprehension was noticeably higher. Extermination of 72 Blades, Volume 1, is based on the foundations of the Heaven-splitting lineage and the Dark Heaven lineage. Its essence is to refine with the Dark Heaven lineage and utilize the Heaven-splitting lineage. It even leads to their gradual fusion, Luo Feng gently shook his head, but this blade technique clearly has severe flaws. Although its power is great, its follow-through is weak. If the blade light contains the origin of life and then fuses with life spirituality, the natural power would be continuous and filled with endless tenacity. After that, refining with the dark heaven lineage and utilizing the heaven-splitting lineage, Luo Feng tried. With his past experience in comprehending numerous godly king-level secret techniques, Luo Feng's accumulation was already profound, and he gradually deduced a rough prototype of the new blade technique. No, that's not right. Luo Feng identified a problem. Once the blade light contains origin of life, life spirituality, its foundation becomes too profound, and the dark heaven lineage, heaven-splitting lineage simply cannot truly refine and control it. At that moment, the rules of the sector within Morosa's body emerged in Luo Feng's mind. It can integrate the heavenly lineage, forming a small sector, and use the sector as a cradle to assist with the complete refinement of the blade light by the dark heaven lineage and the heaven-splitting lineage. With the accumulation of the past hundreds of epochs, and both the 6 branches of life and the 6 branches of destruction had long reached the pinnacle of primal chaos. With the continuous state of consuming primordial crystal spirit fruits and clearing spirit liquid, Luo Feng only felt an emergence of spirit light, and his condition was extraordinarily good. The new secret technique gradually took shape through repeated trials. This secret technique incorporated 2 major branches of the Great Tao of Life, the life origin and life spirituality, and 3 major branches of the Great Tao of Destruction, the dark heaven lineage, heaven-splitting lineage, heavenly lineage. The 5 branches gradually fused, and the new secret technique became increasingly perfected. During this process, he encountered many setbacks, but Luo Feng resolved them one by one. Finally, it's done. Luo Feng had spent more than 10 million days in the land of origin, immersed in his devotion, and had finally perfected this secret technique. Emerge. With a single thought from Luo Feng, a dark chaotic hole formed within him. In terms of creating worlds, Luo Feng had become very experienced. Founding it on the heavenly lineage was even simpler. A massive amount of energy poured into the dark chaos hole, forming strands of blade light. These countless strands of blade light, containing the origin of life and life spirituality, converged and solidified continuously. In just a brief moment, a countless number of blade lights had surged in. Luo Feng used up 1/3 of the energy reserves in this body within the infinite space before the dark chaos hole began to feel somewhat stretched. It's complete. Luo Feng sensed that a supremely refined blade light had been cultivated within the dark chaos hole at that moment. Luo Feng, just by looking at it, felt somewhat horrified. Endless sharpness. Even without its master's control, the blade light would not suffer any loss over the endless ages. Even if the power of the blade light was depleted, it could naturally recover, as it itself seemed to be the origin of life, endlessly energetic. Relying on just this one blade light, it should already be at the strong level of the first realm of the godly king. Luo Feng was secretly astounded. Is the power of fusion through the paths really so terrifying? It was merely a casual realization during a moment of relaxation from his rigorous cultivation. You should know that according to Luo Feng's deductions, this was just the beginning of the secret technique. Next, he would need to fully grasp the 5 kinds of Great Tao branches, and after fusing all 5 branches into this secret technique, the secret technique's power would reach its pinnacle. A complete fusion of 2 kinds of Great Tao branches would already be the second realm of the godly king. The upper limit of my secret technique is the complete fusion of 5 Great Tao branches. Given such power at the starting point, it's quite normal. Luo Feng understood. This secret technique, by nurturing a strong blade light within the chaos hole, shall be named Eternal Light of the Chaos Hole. With my spiritual will, I should be able to simultaneously control more than 10 strands of Eternal Light of the Chaos Hole. More than 10 strands of Eternal Light of the Chaos Hole would be comparable to the strength of my physical body. Luo Feng was very pleased. The strength of the physical body was Luo Feng's most powerful means in the outside world. Only by utilizing the unique formless and intangible capability of a perfect divine body and traveling the path of the transformation method could he achieve such extraordinary strength. But formless and intangible was granted by the supreme rules. and Luo Feng always felt like it was a bit of a shortcut. This time, however, there were no shortcuts. A secret technique born from the initial fusion of 5 great Tao branches, already comparable to the transformation method. It seems even without relying on formless and intangible, I'm pretty strong, Luo Feng chuckled to himself. This chaos hole indestructible light secret technique is just right for me to conceal my identity while taking action, Luo Feng thought to himself. In the land of origin, some powerful beings, when doing things that could easily offend major forces, would conceal their identities. The chaos hole indestructible light appears to the outside world as a blade light that can cut through anything. In a fight, Luo Feng would not release the blade light for the opponent to slowly study. The blade light, when condensed to the extreme, doesn't allow the opponent any chance to infiltrate or scrutinize it. Merely a brief perception. Those with lesser insights might guess. Is it the technique of the origin Tao of matter? Or perhaps the origin Tao of the infinite? Both of these Taos can also achieve an unbreakable, endlessly sharp edge. Those of higher realms might feel a hint of the great Tao of destruction origin. However, in the land of origin, there are too many godly kings who cultivate the great Tao of destruction origin. It is a major school of thought. Time to relax is over. I should focus on the 10 directions world form. Luo Feng continued to delve into the 10 directions world form. Life and destruction are at the end the foundation of the great Tao of life and death. The more solid the foundation, the stronger the fusion of the great Tao of life and death will be. At the border of flame-wind ancient country, Xiangjie City, a man dressed in white walked up to the garrison mansion. He had a saintly appearance, androgynous, standing at the entrance of the garrison mansion, yet the guards could not see him at all. Great Saint Luo He, the man in white spoke, his voice already conveyed to Luo Feng's ears through causality. So it's godly King Po Lu. Luo Feng had noticed the other's arrival into the city, but if the visitor did not come to see him, Luo Feng would pretend not to notice. After all, the number of people entering and leaving the city every day was immense. Since the other party was visiting, Luo Feng naturally went to the gate to receive him personally. The gate guards finally saw a holy man in white standing there, even involuntarily becoming fascinated by him. Godly King Po Lu, please, Luo Feng said. Godly King Po Lu smiled slightly and entered. In the guest pavilion, the two sat facing each other. Facing godly King Po Lu, Luo Feng felt no pressure. Godly King Po Lu was a direct disciple of Emperor Qing, an invincible presence within the first realm of godly kings. Emperor Qing, being the most transcendent among the 13 emperors of flame-wind ancient country, had a total of 15 direct disciples, 6 godly kings, 8 who transcended the primal chaos realm, and 1 at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. These 6 godly kings were all extraordinary, with 1 at the second realm of godly king, 2 invincible at the first realm of godly king, and 3 at the limit of the first realm of godly king. This showed Emperor Qing's capability in cultivating disciples. Anyone who could become a godly king was not ordinary. Godly King Po Lu was one of the 6 godly kings. He had also converted to cultivating the primordial bloodline, reaching the invincible strength of the first realm of godly king. Luo Feng believed that with his full effort, he also possessed the limit strength of the first realm of godly king. As a being in the primal chaos realm with such strength, Luo Feng naturally felt no pressure facing godly King Po Lu. Great Saint Luo He, both of us are direct disciples of emperors and also guest elders of the flame-wind ancient country. Our situations are quite similar, godly King Po Lu said with a smile. We guest elders should also make contact with each other more often, help each other, so that our path of cultivation can be smoother. That makes sense, Luo Feng agreed. Godly King Po Lu was famously adept at networking. Among the direct disciples of Emperor Qing, he had the strongest networking skills, friends scattered throughout the land of origin. What made the outside world most admiring was that he had very good relationships with many godly kings of the Wanjie kingdom, and even succeeded in becoming a disciple of the Lord of 10,000 Realms. Emperor Qing, as his mentor, actually allowed him to do so. A godly king, taking as a mentor both Emperor Qing and the Lord of 10,000 Realms. In the entire land of origin, there was only one such individual. Of course, the Lord of 10,000 Realms also had a good relationship with the Flame-Wind ancient country, and many of his disciples served as guest elders there. I have established a mutual support organization called Skyheart Alliance. It has no rules, just to make it more convenient for everyone to get in touch, said Godly King Polu. Our organization mainly invites godly kings in the first realm. So far, there are over 100 members, and 3 of the early members have even broken through to the second realm of Godly King. Our organization members include 2 great ancient countries, 3 top-tier powers, and many members from various states, Godly King Polu said with a smile. I have long heard of the Skyheart Alliance, Luo Feng said. His own mentor, Mountain Sitting Guest, was a member of the Skyheart Alliance even when he was God King Jin. This was just a platform for the godly kings to contact each other, without any constraints. Godly King Polu also had good relations with many powers because he founded this platform. As a disciple of Emperor Qing and the Lord of 10,000 Realms and an overlord-level existence in his own right, his influence in the land of origin was naturally very large. Great Saint Luo He, would you like to join? Asked Godly King Polu. Of course, I can, Luo Feng nodded. He had joined the Reincarnation Tower, but he could also join other forces. Even Skyheart Alliance could hardly be considered a force, it was merely to facilitate godly kings contacting each other more conveniently. Godly King Polu showed a smile. Haha, Great Saint Luo He is indeed straightforward. If there is any trouble or anything you need help with in the future, just speak up. Although my capabilities are limited, my friends are spread all over the land of origin, and I have ways to solve many problems. Certainly, Luo Feng nodded. Godly King Polu had a good reputation for being willing to help fellow godly kings. This is the Skyheart token. After Great Saint Luo He joins, I believe many godly kings will want to contact you. Godly King Polu handed a token to Luo Feng. Luo Feng looked at the wooden token and smiled as he accepted it. Then I won't stay any longer. Godly King Polu got up. Luo Feng personally saw him off. The 2 of them walked inside the garrison mansion and encountered some servants, all of whom were extremely respectful. Mentor. Suddenly, they ran into Moyu Qingyang and his wife. This is Godly King Polu, Luo Feng said. Moyu Qingyang and Zhong Yunj were both startled. They were not ordinary eternal true gods and were quite informed, knowing of Godly King Polu's reputation. Greetings to Godly King Polu, Moyu Qingyang and Zhong Yunj said respectfully. Is this Moyu Qingyang, your only disciple, Great Saint Luo He? Godly King Polu smiled as he looked at Moyu Qingyang, then noticed Zhong Yunj beside him. Luo Feng spoke from the side, this is my disciple Qingyang, and beside him is his wife Yunji. Yunji? Godly King Polu asked, I think I've met you before. Yes. Zhong Yunj was somewhat excited, the godly king is kind, often publicly preaching in Polu City, instructing us weaker cultivators. I have been there 3 times to listen to the godly king's teachings. Luo Feng listened from the side. The godly King Polu enjoyed helping other godly kings as well as aiding the weak, often giving public sermons. Although he spoke of elementary laws such as the primal chaos laws, the explanations of an overlord-level being were still incredibly precious. Each sermon would attract many eternal true gods to rush to Polu City to listen to the godly King Polu's sermon. Ha ha ha! Godly King Polu laughed, cultivation is not easy, I merely provide some slight guidance. Without saying much more, Godly King Polu left the garrison mansion with Luo Feng's company and departed from Xiangjie City. Godly King Polu is extremely powerful yet incredibly benevolent. Zhong Yunj returned to her cave mansion, still quite excited. Before, when I listened to his sermons, I could only watch and listen from afar. This time he spoke to me so kindly. He is indeed kind, Moyu Qingyang agreed. After all, it was rare for a powerful godly king to exchange a few words with 2 eternal true gods. In a few days, it will be Godly King Polu's next public sermon. Zhong Yunj looked at Moyu Qingyang. Let's go together then. Let's listen to the sermon together. Together? Moyu Qingyang pondered for a moment. It's soon, just a few days, Zhong Yunj urged. All right, I can arrange to take my turn earlier. Moyu Qingyang replied with a smile. The affairs of the city were managed on a rotation basis. Cultivators also needed their own cultivation time. Polu City. On the day of godly King Polu's sermon, eternal true gods from all directions gathered in the square, a full million of them with fervent eyes focused on a high place. When godly King Polu appeared, they were each excited beyond measure. Over 1 million eternal true gods had come, which was considered a small number, mainly because the journey was too long and perilous for eternal true gods. Godly King Polu's sermon is indeed extraordinary, Moryu Qingyang acclaimed after listening. He acknowledged. What godly King Polu spoke about was even more detailed than his second master's teachings. Of course, godly King Polu only spoke for a day. Morosa's guidance lasted longer, and it could be tailored to Moryu Qingyang's questions for detailed advice. I feel I have made some progress in my comprehension. Zhong Yunj was also very excited. If I could have regular guidance from a godly king as my master, perhaps I would have hope of reaching the primal chaos realm. The cultivators in the square began to disperse. Moryu Qingyang, Zhong Yunj, the godly king requests your presence. One of godly King Polu's servants came to invite them. Us. Moryu Qingyang and Zhong Yunj were both somewhat flattered and immediately followed the servant into the city's only high mountain, Polu Mountain. In a secluded part of Polu Mountain, Moryu Qingyang and Zhong Yunj saw the leisurely seated godly King Polu. We pay respects to the godly king. The two of them quickly bowed with respect. Moryu Qingyang, how is your master? Godly King Polu said. My master is well, as always dedicated to cultivation, Moryu Qingyang said. Great Saint Luo, he is pure of heart and is sure to have a broader future than I, godly King Polu praised, then looked at the two of them. You were earnest in coming from the frontier to listen to my sermon. Now, show me some of your techniques. Yes. Moryu Qingyang and Zhong Yunj performed their techniques in succession. Godly King Polu gave pointers one by one, and the two juniors listened intently, feeling they had gained a lot. Both of your talents are only average, only with more diligence and focus is there hope for you to aspire to the primal chaos realm, godly King Polu said. Understood. Both husband and wife listened closely. Moryu Qingyang has great Saint Luo he as a master, no need for me to interfere much. Zhong Yunj, if you wish, you can be my disciple, godly King Polu said. He had many disciples, and to date, he had over 300 direct disciples. Zhong Yunj was thrilled to hear this. In her clan, she could not even meet the ancient godly king ancestors. In Xiangjie City, Luo Feng would at most occasionally give some advice to his direct disciple Moryu Qingyang. Morosa was usually the one to provide guidance. Let alone Zhong Yunj. Disciple pays respects to master. Zhong Yunj immediately knelt down, taking the opportunity to become a disciple of the godly king without hesitation. Moryu Qingyang also felt happy for his wife. With her becoming a disciple of a godly king, her path of cultivation had become hopeful. Godly King Polu nodded with a smile. As my disciple, you will be arranged to have a residence on the mountain. You and your husband can live there, or you can always return to Xiangjie City, godly King Polu said, and then a servant led Moryu Qingyang and the others away. Godly King Polu watched this scene. Master, Zhong Yunj's talent is average, and there's truly no hope for her to impact the primal chaos realm, so why take her as a disciple? The old servant of the primal chaos realm by his side asked with confusion. Nothing is absolute. If she focuses on her cultivation, a miracle may happen, godly King Polu said, and taking her as my disciple is also because of great Saint Luo he, as a way to form some causality. Great Saint Luo he, the primal chaos realm old servant said, he is, after all, only beyond the primal chaos realm. He is the one who, with his self-created secret technique, can match the strength of an extremely powerful first realm of godly king. Godly King Polu said, once he becomes a godly king, he can quickly achieve undisputed in the first realm of godly king. Throughout the entire land of origin, not counting those who rely on external forces, there are probably only about 5 who can reach the undisputed status in the first realm of godly king. Luo he will soon be one of them. Godly King Polu looked at his old servant who had followed him for countless years. This Luo he will be much more powerful than me in the future. The path of cultivation is difficult and full of endless risks. Even I could fall with a moment's inattention. Making friends is one way to ward off risks, it's even more important when the friends are powerful. godly King Polu turned and left. The old servant nodded, understanding, and quickly followed. Master, godly King Polu has taken Yun Ji as a disciple. Mo Yu Qingyang sent the news back. Inside Xiangjie City, Luo Feng received the message. That's good news, Luo Feng replied. Next part. While Luo Feng was deeply immersed in his cultivation, Primordial Ancestor suddenly contacted him. Primordial Ancestor, Luo Feng knew of the Primordial Ancestor's personality, and that he wouldn't disturb his cultivation without important matters, so he immediately went to see him. Luo Feng. Primordial Ancestor sat inside a pavilion, and seeing Luo Feng arrive, he immediately grinned and poured a drink for Luo Feng. Come, have a drink. Primordial Ancestor, you seem to be in good spirits. Luo Feng also noticed this. Ha ha ha. I've finally penetrated the foundation of the great Tao. Naturally, I'm joyful, said the Primordial Ancestor. You've comprehended the primal chaos laws? Luo Feng was both shocked and delighted. The Primordial Ancestor nodded. Fortunately, with the vast amount of resources you gave me, and the many inheritances from the Heart Shadow sect as nourishment, my cultivation has been able to progress so smoothly. Otherwise, it would have taken 10 to 100 times longer. The resources gathered from the Heart Shadow sect seemed quite extensive at the time, but Luo Feng received a one-time bounty of 300 billion cosmic coins from the Desert Wind City Lord, which made those resources seem insignificant. Yet those resources, for an eternal true god to use freely, were still too extravagant. Luo Feng himself had been quite poor when he was an eternal true god. It took just over a century to reach the primal chaos realm, and to even create your own Dharma. Luo Feng admired. Primordial Ancestor, you fully have the potential to assault the God King realm. The God King is much harder than the primal chaos realm, laughed the Primordial Ancestor. You have to take it one step at a time, and I'm still far from it. But Luo Feng knew very well. It took him just over 3 decades to become a pinnacle of primal chaos realm, and he also had the opportunity to comprehend the great Tao of life origin, aiding his rapid progress. The Primordial Ancestor reaching the primal chaos realm in just over a century, even with enough inheritances and resources, was still shocking. Primordial Ancestor, to comprehend the amazing virtual universe secret technique at the true God stage, and to become the strongest in the surrounding regions of the primordial cosmos, you truly have exceptional talent. Luo Feng had long realized the Primordial Ancestor's high talent, but it was after coming to the land of origin and receiving enough resources that the Primordial Ancestor began to shine his light. Luo Feng was also very pleased. If the human race only had himself as a pillar, he would feel great pressure acting in the land of origin. With the equally talented Primordial Ancestor to help share the burden, Luo Feng could relax much more. You should hasten your small universe breakthrough, and evolve your godly body, said Luo Feng, and take the opportunity to research which great Tao suits you best. I'm quite interested in the origin Tao of the world, the Primordial Ancestor stated. The world. Luo Feng understood. The path the Primordial Ancestor strictly followed was Virtual World. Extending from Virtual World, one could delve into the direction of the soul, but there was no clear great Tao for the soul path. Everything needed self-enlightenment. Virtual World could also extend toward the origin Tao of the world. Take lightning, for example. The origin Tao of the infinite includes the use of many energies such as lightning, flame, wind, and earth. But lightning can also lead to a complete origin Tao of thunderbolt. The starting point is the same, but the endpoints can be drastically different. I've been suppressed by the primordial cosmos for ages, and I have a deep understanding and interest in the myriad states of beings and the operation of all things. The path of the world is very suitable for me, said the Primordial Ancestor. He liked the virtual world, and he equally liked the real world. This path had much for him to research. The path you like the most and are most interested in is the one you can travel the farthest, Luo Feng agreed. That day, in the region of the primordial cosmos of his hometown, a massive small universe expanded once again. This was the Primordial Ancestor's small universe. The Primordial Ancestor's small universe has expanded again. The Primordial Ancestor broke through so quickly. True gods from various clans and universe masters came nearby, watching the grand expansion of that massive small universe from afar. The strong members of the human race were extremely excited. The human race had the absolute strongest ancestral god of the galaxy in the surrounding universe ocean, whose small universe was a massive trillion light-years in diameter. Just seeing that massive small universe could quench any fighting spirit from other clans. And now, the primordial ancestor, second only to the ancestral god of the galaxy, also saw his small universe surge dramatically. Teacher is going to break through. The primal Chaos City Lord watched this scene joyfully, looking towards Luo Feng at his side. Luo Feng, when can we venture into the reincarnation? The primal Chaos City Lord could have become a true god of void space long ago, but he kept restraining himself from breaking through. Now, watching his disciple Luo Feng reach a small universe of 1 trillion light-years in diameter, and seeing his teacher primordial ancestor continuously breaking through, the primal Chaos City Lord felt a little itchy. The other side of reincarnation is filled with countless strong beings, profound and unfathomable, Luo Feng said. Stay in the region of the primordial cosmos and cultivate patiently. I estimate that before this reincarnation era ends, you should be able to set off. One reincarnation era of the primordial cosmos was roughly 10,000 eras on the land of origin side. Luo Feng estimated that with such a long time, he should be able to deal with the Emperor of Tian Kuan. Even if not, he should also have sufficient assurance to protect the strong members of the human race coming to the land of origin. Good, the primal Chaos City Lord smiled and nodded. Actually, our cultivation progress has been very slow in the region of the primordial cosmos. I know, Luo Feng nodded. Although cultivation is difficult in the region of the primordial cosmos, the harder it is, the more it tempers oneself. The help it provides for the future will be greater. Getting used to cultivating in harsh environments, and then going to the land of origin would naturally be much more efficient. The primal Chaos City Lord nodded. Luo Feng and the primordial ancestor always discouraged the strong humans from venturing into reincarnation, asking them to wait patiently. This showed that even Luo Feng and the primordial ancestor didn't have complete confidence in dealing with the situation on the other side. ***************** In Chu capital, at Marquis Chu Yu's mansion. Brother Chu Yu, Luo Feng called out from afar. Emperor Chu Yu looked up and saw Luo Feng in the distance, revealing a smile. Brother Luo He. Luo Feng took a step and descended into the Marquis mansion. Brother Luo He, it is quite rare for you to visit me, said Emperor Chu Yu with an unhurried grace. After all, with the vast resources from the heavenly task and a century passing by, he had long reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm in strength. After all, he was one of the unlimited godly bodies and reaching such strength wasn't difficult, but his realm was still some distance from the bottleneck. But with sufficient strength, and with the powerful guest elder great Saint Luo He, Emperor Chu Yu certainly had everything going his way. Moreover, the other lords of the imperial clan wouldn't foolishly compete with him. Indeed, there is something for which I need Brother Chu Yu's assistance, Luo Feng said directly. Oh! Emperor Chu Yu's eyes lit up. That's good news. As Luo He's strength continued to grow, logically, the chances of needing the help of a lord of the imperial clan like him became increasingly slim. It's like this. My Qin Yuan has just become a being of primal chaos realm, Luo Feng explained. I want a guest elder quota from Flamewind ancient country. A guest elder quota? Emperor Chu Yu frowned slightly. Yuan is a newly advanced primal chaos realm being, right? Is he from the law lineage? Law lineage, Luo Feng nodded. Beings of primal chaos realm from the law lineage are the minimum requirement to recruit as a guest elder. Barely meeting the minimum requirement, and he isn't one of the unlimited godly bodies, Emperor Chu Yu shook his head lightly. Any lord of the imperial clan who wants to invite a guest elder would likely be reluctant to use such a quota on him. The guest elder quotas of lords from the imperial clan are very carefully considered, as they are their most important support. I'm not very familiar with the internal affairs of the imperial clan, so I came to ask you, said Luo Feng. After Yuan became a primal chaos realm being, to grow further, he first needed the most suitable inheritance and resources for himself. I could only try to come up with 1 or 2 emperor-level inheritances of the origin Tao of the world at best, and even those might not be suitable for Yuan. The best solution would still be for Yuan to become a guest elder of Flamewind ancient country. Then, he could choose any of the numerous inheritances available in the inheritance palace. It must be acknowledged. The guest elder system of the two great ancient countries is definitely a huge help to primal chaos realm beings. It's just that the guest elder quotas are very scarce, and clearly, both ancient countries aim to cultivate elites. I personally used up my 2 quotas. As far as I know, among the lords of Flame Wind ancient country, there probably aren't that many who still have a vacant guest elder quota, Emperor Chuyu said, especially after the previous heavenly task. The lords spared no expense and many of the guest elder quotas have already been promised. Luo Feng understood. At least within Emperor Chu's lineage, I haven't heard of anyone who still has a quota. Among the other 12 lineages of the imperial clan, there might still be available quotas. Let me check, Emperor Chuyu said. Any condition can be discussed, Luo Feng said, even if it costs hundreds of billions of cosmic sands, it's a trivial matter. All right. I will immediately inquire about this, Emperor Chuyu promised. That very day, Emperor Chuyu, accompanied by his trusted aide, left Chu capital and headed towards Yu capital of Flame Wind ancient country. Yu capital is the ancestral land of Emperor Chu's lineage. The relationship between Emperor Diu's lineage and Emperor Chu's lineage is quite good, so the lords of both lineages often interact with each other. Chuyu, what's the matter that couldn't be communicated through a message, that you came to Yu capital in person? A man dressed in a purple robe said with a smiling tone. Yu Feng, Emperor Chuyu sat opposite him. I know you still have 1 guest elder quota. Emperor Yu Feng looked at the other party and nodded with a smile. Yes, the outside world knows that I only have 1 guest elder. Indeed, I still have 1 quota vacant. There are many who have come to me asking for this quota. Many beings from Primal Chaos Realm are willing to pledge allegiance to me. Great Saint Luo he wants this quota, Emperor Chuyu said. Great Saint Luo he? Emperor Yofeng's heart skipped a beat, then he relaxed. If Great Saint Luo he is willing to become my guest elder, I would naturally offer the quota proactively. But, he is already your guest elder. He wants the quota, which must be for some other Primal Chaos Realm being, right? Emperor Chuyu nodded, a newly advanced Primal Chaos Realm being, from the Law lineage. A new Primal Chaos Realm being? Emperor Yufeng shook his head. There's no need to concern yourself with who this Primal Chaos Realm being is. The key is, Great Saint Luo he wants this quota. State any condition, you name it, Emperor Chuyu said. You should be aware that Luo he will soon become a godly king. And he will be an overlord-level existence. Emperor Yufeng looked at the other party. What good is it to become an overlord? How does that help a lord of the imperial clan? Even as a godly king, he can't involve himself in the struggles of the lords of the imperial clan. The competition among the lords of the imperial clan is on the Primal Chaos Realm level, with godly kings intervening considered bullying the less powerful and is prohibited. Just name your condition, Emperor Chuyu said. I want to become a godly king, Emperor Yufeng said. During the last heavenly task, I ranked 2nd within Emperor Diu's lineage, and you should know that mere resources won't sway me. What I need is a wholeheartedly supportive and powerful guest elder for myself. If there's no suitable target, I would rather keep the quota unused. Having an unused quota is enough to attract a flock of Primal Chaos Realm beings to serve me, Emperor Yufeng said. Without this quota, most of those Primal Chaos Realm beings would probably leave. Emperor Chuyu fell silent. Brother Chuyu, you should understand, since the heavenly task till now, it's only been a century, and the imperial clan has not produced a new lord, Emperor Yufeng said. Those lords didn't even use their quotas during the heavenly task. How could they easily give it to Great Saint Luo he? After all, a lord only gets 2 quotas for life, Emperor Yufeng said. Not every lord of the imperial clan can be as fortunate as you to have chosen Luo he as a guest elder. Is there no way? Emperor Chuyu looked at Emperor Yufeng. Well, for a treasure worth 2 million merit points, I will sell this quota. Don't say that I'm asking for too much, Emperor Yufeng said. Of course, I also know that Great Saint Luo he wouldn't be willing to part with so many treasures. 2 million merit points, the value is roughly 600 billion cosmic sands. Upon hearing this, Emperor Chuyu could only stand up, as the price was outrageously high. In just over 10 days, Emperor Chu Yu met with 7 lords of the imperial clan, but all of them refused him. The beings of primal chaos realm outside the 2 ancient countries might still fear the number 1 being of primal chaos realm, fearing the future might godly king, but to the lords of the imperial clan? A guest elder godly king does not pose a threat to them, nor can they assist them, so without sufficient incentive they naturally wouldn't consider the matter. Hundreds of billions of cosmic sands may seem like a lot. Before the heavenly task, that might have been all the wealth a lord of the imperial clan had accumulated. But after the resources from the heavenly task were distributed, the lords of the imperial clan became wealthy, and without significant enticement, they have no reason to be interested. Chu capital, Marquis Chu Yu mansion. That's the situation, Emperor Chu Yu said with a sense of helplessness. Of the imperial clan's 13 branches, only 7 royal marquises have the quota for guest elders. I have visited them all, but it's simply impossible to reach an agreement. Listening, Luo Feng thanked him with a smile. Brother Chu Yu, thank you. I know not all relationships among the imperial clan's 13 branches are good. My guest elder is Great Saint Luo He. Even if they are not agreeable, they wouldn't dare to force their way harshly, Emperor Chu Yu said nonchalantly. However, they were all unwilling to use the guest elder quota for the previous heavenly task. Indeed, getting that quota is really difficult. Luo Feng nodded. From what he observed through Emperor Chu Yu's experience, it was indeed troublesome. What the royal marquises care about most is their own cultivation path, Emperor Chu Yu pondered. After this heavenly task, the next major task may not come until over 1,000 eras. It won't be long before Brother Luo He becomes a godly king, so he won't be able to participate in the competition within the primal chaos realm. It's understandable that they are unwilling to agree. It's hard for me to be of help to them, Luo Feng agreed. In the governance of the Flame-Wind ancient country, more than 90% of the affairs are handled by the royal marquises of the imperial clan's 13 branches. Only the truly important matters are reserved for godly kings. Even the godly kings don't dare to bully the smaller by killing royal marquises. Should someone dare to do so, even the monarch of the Flame-Wind ancient country may intervene. The royal marquises are the core elites cultivated by the imperial clan. Conflicts at the same level are tolerated by the Flame-Wind ancient country. Bullying the weak? Absolutely forbidden. So, what could Luo Feng do even if he became a godly king? How much could an invincible godly king at the first realm really help the royal marquises? Apart from royal marquises selecting guest elders, are there any other methods? Luo Feng inquired. According to the rules of our imperial clan, royal marquises select guest officials of primal chaos realm, while royal family god kings choose god king guest elders, Emperor Chu Yu explained. Also, the reigning emperor can make exceptions and directly recruit some guest elders. The reigning emperor? Luo Feng shook his head gently. Such a trivial matter was not worth escalating to the emperor. If the ancestor were to speak, it would definitely be not difficult, Emperor Chu Yu remarked. I'll think about it some more. Luo Feng stood up. With his disposition, he was reluctant to trouble his master, Emperor Chu, unnecessarily. After all, he had just entered the primal chaos realm, and there was no urgent need. He would find another way once he became a godly king. Seeking inheritance didn't just mean being a guest elder, and even if he were one, he wasn't limited only to the Flame-Wind ancient country. There's no rush. Many thoughts flickered through Luo Feng's mind. Chu capital, Marquis Chu Ying mansion. Marquis Chu Ying, ranking first in the last heavenly task, naturally received substantial resources. Additionally, he was personally praised and regarded highly by Emperor Qing, a promising elite of the imperial clan. Emperor Qing, one of the 13 emperors of the imperial clan, is the most transcendent among them. His open praise motivated even some godly kings to seek a connection with Marquis Chu Ying. My lord, a house manager said respectfully, Luo He does indeed want a guest elder quota. Recently, Marquis Chu Yu has been to quite a few places among the imperial clan's 13 territories, trying with several royal marquises. I heard they all refused. A guest elder quota? Marquis Chu Ying's eyes were cold. Who is seeking the quota for? It's said to be for a newly ascended being of the primal chaos realm. According to intelligence, The eternal true god Yuan from Luo his cave mansion just achieved that realm, the manager reported. Marquis Chu Ying laughed. His old servant Luo Sa has been in the primal chaos realm for quite some time, yet he never thought to seek a guest elder quota for him. But as soon as Yuan breaks through, he's immediately trying to secure a quota. It seems that in Luo his heart, this Yuan is most important. Alright, you may go now, Marquis Chu Ying dismissed him. Yes, the manager withdrew respectfully. Marquis Chu Ying looked into the distance. I've been in seclusion for such a long time, only just completing my work when I hear this news, Marquis Chu Ying chuckled. It seems that Luo he and I are indeed fated. Marquis Chu Ying had the deepest accumulation among the 7 top-rank marquises, and with the tremendous resources from ranking first in the heavenly task, he had grasped a branch of the great Tao over hundreds of eras, and had just come out of seclusion. Upon emerging, he learned about Luo his search for a guest elder quota. I've just grasped a branch of the great Tao, my small universe has not yet transformed, nor has my godly body. Officially, I am still a royal marquis, Marquis Chu Ying thought. Using my authority and spending some imperial clan merit points, I could indeed apply for another guest elder quota. Within the imperial clan, differentiations are made among the royal marquises. Those few who have transcended primal chaos realm and are considered top-rank marquises can even gain opportunities to enter divine places left by Yuan for free. From the moment Emperor Qing favored him, Marquis Chu Ying's privileges were greatly enhanced. Once I break through, I will be a godly king. I must consider the future. An existence that can become an invincible being in the first realm of godly king without external support is rare even throughout the land of origin. Marquis Chu Ying was well aware of Luo his potential. Having made up his mind, Marquis Chu Ying immediately set out alone. He flew over Chu capital and soon arrived quietly in front of Luo his cave mansion. Marquis Chu Ying stood outside the entrance to Luo his cave mansion. Pass the message, Marquis Chu Ying instructed the guards at the door. Say that Marquis Chu Ying has come to visit Great Saint Luo he. Marquis Chu Ying? The 2 guards at the door were surprised, visiting alone without any servants. One of the guards immediately ran back to convey the message. Marquis Chu Ying waited at the gate. Marquis Chu Ying? Luo Feng also arrived at the doorway, quite curious. Normally, powerful figures would communicate directly through voice transmission, yet here was Marquis Chu Ying, adhering strictly to protocol by sending word through the gate guards. Great Saint Luo he, Marquis Chu Ying looked at Luo Feng, smiling. I have come to discuss a matter regarding the guest elder quota. Luo Feng's eyes brightened, it sounded as though there might be a turnaround. Please, Luo Feng invited him in right away. Within the guest pavilion. The 2 sat down, and Luo Feng personally helped pour the wine, asking, from what Marquis Chu Ying said, you have a way for the guest elder position? Marquis Chu Ying nodded. All first-class marquises of the 13 imperial clan lineages are in competition, with different resources available to each. Luo Feng nodded. Fortunately, I am one of the more outstanding among the first-class marquises of the imperial clan, so I have some privileges, said Marquis Chu Ying, looking at Luo Feng. I can find a way to apply for an additional guest elder position. Luo Feng's heart leapt with joy. The guest elder position is rare. Whatever I need to pay, just say it, Luo Feng said. Though he hadn't dealt much with Marquis Chu Ying, he had to admit that Chu Ying's demeanor alone was the most extraordinary among the 7 first-class marquises of Emperor Chu's lineage. The other 6, when facing Marquis Chu Ying, would naturally bow their heads. It was because, during the long-term competition, Marquis Chu Ying was always far ahead. If it hadn't been for Luo Feng's interference in the last heavenly task, Chu Ying would have been far ahead in the first place for all 3 subtasks. Even with Luo Feng's interference, Chu Ying still came out first overall in the end. Just one position, said Marquis Chu Ying with a smile. My visit today was precisely to make friends with brother Luo he. After the past few days of understanding, Luo Feng realized that even though Marquis Chu Ying had a special status and could apply for another position, it was likely to come at a cost. Because within the imperial clan, as was always the rule, any resources beyond the free quota had to be exchanged for merit points. Brother Chu Ying, thank you, said Luo Feng. I'll remember this kindness. Marquis Chu Ying nodded. That was enough for him. Being a powerful being himself, he placed even greater emphasis on causality. Marquis Chu Ying was well aware that the struggle among the upper echelons of the land of origin was brutal. The two ancient countries of the imperial clan were also fighting each other, and there were old powers from non-imperial clans, some of whom were strong enough to arm wrestle with emperors and monarchs. Like the Lord of 10,000 Realms, like those from East Extreme Domain, like the few most dazzling ones in the second realm of Godly King, and also the strong alien race beings hidden in the shadows. Each party was competing for the resources left by Yuan. I am quite outstanding among the first-class marquises, but it's too difficult to continue being outstanding after becoming a godly king. One must rely on oneself and also on support. Marquis Chu Ying saw potential in Luo Feng. Is it for the one who originally applied? Marquis Chu Ying asked. Luo Feng nodded. It's him. Let him come to my mansion, said Marquis Chu Ying. By the time he arrives, the application for the position should already be approved. All right, Luo Feng nodded. Me, a guest official of Primal Chaos Realm? Yuan had just broken through, his godly body still in growth, and he was originally consolidating his cultivation in seclusion when Luo Feng summoned him directly. Luo Feng said, by becoming a guest elder of Flame Wind Ancient Country, you can directly obtain a quota of 100,000 merit points. Later, you can choose the inheritance you need most in the Inheritance Palace. In the future, you can also gradually accumulate merit points to exchange for resources. Yuan, having been in Chu capital for so long, was very clear on how precious the guest elder positions were. Many beings of Primal Chaos Realm had been mingling in Flame Wind Ancient Country, willing to exert themselves for the first-class marquises of the Imperial clan, all scheming for a position. This position wasn't easy to get, was it? Yuan asked. Go to Marquis Chu Ying's mansion now. When the time comes, Marquis Chu Ying will meet with you, Luo Feng said. No need to ask more about it. Yuan nodded without saying much. All right. He immediately set off for Marquis Chu Ying's mansion. Luo Feng watched Yuan leave, also revealing a smile. Everything's finally arranged, Luo Feng sighed with relief. Another pillar of the human race, Yuan, had also become a guest elder. With appropriate inheritance and resources, his path was likely to be much smoother in the future. Marquis Chu Ying handled things properly, and on that day, Yuan became a guest official of Primal Chaos Realm. He also went to the Inheritance Palace and chose an inheritance he wanted. When this news spread, it caused some resentment among the beings of Primal Chaos Realm in Chu capital. They tried all they could and couldn't get a position, and now a newly advanced being of Primal Chaos Realm got one directly. But with Great Saint Luo He and Marquis Chu Ying behind this newly advanced being, they could only grumble. It wasn't long before Marquis Chu Ying made a breakthrough and became a godly king. He was the fourth godly king of Emperor Chu's lineage of the imperial clan, causing quite a stir. At the godly king celebration of Emperor Chu Ying, Luo Feng even personally brought gifts to congratulate him. After Emperor Chu Ying became a godly king, Luo Feng also went into seclusion, focusing solely on his cultivation. Days passed by. The effect of the clearing spirit liquid finally dissipated, and there was only a little residue left from the effect of the primordial crystal spirit fruit. The 10 Directions World Form. Inside the Star Tower, Luo Feng sat cross-legged, staring at some materials in front of him. He was focused on comprehending the extremely difficult 10 Directions World Form and did not demand to grasp it within the Primal Chaos Realm. Even if he failed, it was still a kind of training for his comprehension. But at that moment, a complete 10 Directions World Form suddenly formed in Luo Feng's mind. Have I really comprehended it? Luo Feng murmured to himself. Sometimes, surprises come so unexpectedly. This video will end here.